I recall, during the period January to September 2001, the FBI received over 1,000 threats. Many of these threats had great specificity, and others were very general in nature. All were taken seriously, but the volume was daunting. The increase in the chatter was by far the most serious, but it was also the most difficult to deal with. There was no specificity as to what, where, and when. We knew the who, but only that it was al-Qaeda. I had regular conversations with the Director of CIA and his deputy, and the Attorney General and his deputy about the threats we were receiving, and to learn if there was anything more that would help us understand the fragmentary information we had. The only news I received was that the chatter subsided in August 2001. Further, I personally spoke both collectively and individually with each of the special agents in charge of the FBI's 56 field offices and with the assistant directors at FBI headquarters about what we knew and what we should be doing. Most of what I heard pointed overseas. For example, the recommendation of the assistant director of New York and the head of counterterrorism, I removed the agents from Yemen due to the threat level and the chatter. During the summer, we continued to pursue our investigations of the bombing of the African embassies and the USS Cole. These were not just investigations to bring people responsible to justice, but they were also giving us valuable intelligence on al-Qaeda. These investigations did more than advance the prosecution of these matters. They provided some of the best intelligence the U.S. government possessed about al-Qaeda. Many of those arrested and brought back to the United States started to cooperate with the FBI. They provided us not only information about the bombings, but also became valuable resources in identifying al-Qaeda members to U.S. intelligence. They gave us unique insights into al-Qaeda's command and control.
When the Phoenix agent sent the electronic cable to FBI headquarters, he requested that the radical fundamentalist unit and the Osama bin Laden unit reconsider implementing the suggested actions. The Phoenix agent explained in testimony to the joint inquiry that, quote, basically, what I wanted was an analytic product. I wanted this discussed with the intelligence community. I wanted to see if my hunches were correct, end quote. The electronic cable was initially assigned to the intelligence operations specialist in the radical fundamentalist unit, who worked on it with the intelligence specialist unit. The latter consulted two IOSs in her unit, mentioning specifically the paragraph in the electronic cable about obtaining visa information. Their discussion centered on the legality of the proposal and whether it raised profiling issues. The intelligence operations specialist, also known as the IOS, also decided to forward the electronic cable to Portland FBI field office because the person named in the electronic cable with ties to suspected terrorists arrested in the Middle East in early 2001 was an employee of an airline who had previously lived and studied in the Northwestern United States. Portland did not take action on the communication or disseminate it because it was sent to the field for information purposes only. On August 7, 2001, the specialists in the two units decided that the matter should be closed. The specialist in the UBLU unit, also known as the Osama bin Laden unit, told the joint inquiry that she intended to return to the project once she had time to do initial research, but on September 11th, she had not yet done an opportunity to do so. Both specialists also said they had considered assigning the Phoenix communication to a headquarters analytic unit, but had decided against it. The chiefs of both the RFU and the UBLU informed the joint inquiry that they did not see the electronic cable from Phoenix before September 11th. They do not remember ever even hearing about the flight school issue until after September 11th. An FBI audit of the central record system requested by the joint inquiry supports their statements. The Phoenix electronic cable was also not shared with other agencies before September 11th, Although the former chief of the FBI's International Terrorism Operations Section explained in testimony to the joint inquiry, quote, "One of the great frustrations is that the Phoenix communication talks about airlines. We have FAA people in the International Terrorism Operations Section, talks about intelligence. We have CIA people, it talks about visas. There are State Department people and immigration people in that unit. That information should have been shared, if only for informational purposes, with all those people at our headquarters. And it wasn't done, and it should have been done," end quote. In fact, Transportation Security Administration Assistant Undersecretary for Intelligence, Claudio Mano, testified at a joint inquiry hearing that the first time that they saw the electronic cable was when it was brought to the attention by the joint inquiry staff. Had the FAA received that memo before September 11th, Mr. Mano believes that, quote, "We would have started to ask a lot more probing questions of FBI as to what this was all about to start with. There were a number of things that were done later to try to determine what connections these people may have had to flight schools by going back to information maintained by the FAA to try to identify additional people. In fact, this process is whoever we got a threat to, we opened an intelligence case file, and that it is so that we segregate that issue from the hundreds and hundreds of other intelligence reports that we get and that we focus on, and the work that may entail in trying to determine whether this is a credible threat, something that needs to be acted upon, maybe going back and working with the FBI, try and get additional information. In some cases, you'll be working with the State Department or the CIA if it requires overseas work. So we make all efforts to try to get to the bottom of what this is all about," end quote. It seems that the electronic cable would have been helpful had the information been shared.